in Acts chapter 17. So we'll look at Paul rather than Jesus. He has a chance to address the Athenians in Acts 17. And again, as in John 4, the starting point is not aligning for a charitable interpretation, okay? It says Paul was greatly distressed to see that the city was full of idols, wholly idolatrous. And then the Epicurean and the Stoic philosophers start calling him names. What is this babbler trying to say? Again, what would your first line have been? I know my heart, the New Jersey Italian in me probably would have, come out a bit too strong, my response here, they're calling me a babbler. They're telling me I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm looking around at the environment around me, and it's full of idols. I'm distressed at the utter idolatry. The last thing that would have come out of my mouth would have been something that looked for the positive, something that was gracious. And Paul begins, "People of Athens, I see that in every way you are very religious." What? He starts by paying them a compliment. And it's not like he was blind to things, right? He says he was distressed by the idolatry. So it's not like he's saying it's no big deal. He's going to get there. He's not in any way sort of dismissing truth. But he starts by trying to find something positive. What was he looking for as he walked around the city? The negative? No, that was obvious to him. He was looking for the positive. He was looking for something that was good. And then he finds something true, and he actually quotes their own cultural authorities. He quotes their poets. He says, "For in him we live and move and have our being. As some of your own poets have said, we are his offspring." So to affirm truths about who God is, he decides to quote their own poets to find a remnant of truth in their culture. And here, I think, is the most amazing part of this conversation in Acts 17. Again, take a slow read through that later today. By taking this positive approach, Paul doesn't just build a bridge between himself and his audience, but at the same time, he also is building a bridge between rival factions, the Epicureans and the Stoics, within his audience. So the two rival philosophies of the day were Epicureanism and Stoicism. The Epicureans saw the divine as transcendent. God is far off, sort of deistic, impersonal, not concerned with human affairs. Then the Stoics, to the contrary, saw God as immanent, all around us, in everything, similar in this respect to what today we might think of as pantheism or kind of a new age beliefs. And so Paul, knowing that this divide exists within his audience, what does he do? He finds something that he can affirm positively from each of their philosophies. So first, he gives a nod to the Epicureans, and he says, you know what? You're right that God is transcendent, that he is distinct from us, that he is so very different from us. In fact, the God who made the world and everything in it does not live in temples built by human hands. Therefore, we should not think that the divine being is like gold or silver or stone, an image made by human design and skill. But then, just as the Stoics are beginning to kind of squirm in their seats because the Epicureans are being affirmed and not them, then he turns and he gives a nod to them too. And he says, you know what, you're right, Stoics, that God is immanent. He's not just far off, he's also right here with us. God himself gives everyone life and breath and everything else. That's how close he is, for in him we live and move and have our being. And then Paul finds in their own poets the perfect analogy. We are his offspring. God is our parent. And yes, a parent is so much greater than a child. There's a distance, even a vast gap between parent and child, between us and God. That's the nod to the Epicureans. But what could be closer and more connected and more intimate than the relationship between a parent and a child? So I see you too, Stoics. And then finally, he gives this perfect invitation for his audience. God did this so that we would seek him and perhaps reach out for him and find him. In other words, God is other. He is transcendent. He is above us. That's why we need to seek him and reach out for him. Though, and yet, he is not far from any one of us. Not transcendent or immanent, transcendent and immanent. Drawing on both of their belief systems, Paul takes the remnants of good and truth in each one and then combines them to offer a true unifying vision of God and the gospel. I mean, talk about leadership skills. I think it's incredible. He simultaneously is building a bridge between himself and his audience by finding the truth in his environment and in what they've said and in what their cultural authorities have said. But at the same time, he's making sure to affirm something in each of the rival factions, the different philosophies in the audience, building a bridge between them, all while gently building a bridge between everyone and God himself. It's absolutely masterful. And if you ask me, it is so much more attractive than if Paul had just stood up there in front of the Epicureans and the Stoics, who had been making fun of him and who were in a context of utter idolatry. It would have been very natural to just stand up there and said, here's why you're wrong, Epicureans, and here's why you're wrong, Stoics, and here's why I'm right. It would have been very tempting for Paul to do that. But I'm not sure that he would have been received the way that he was received. You know, I've seen a lot of people come to know Christ. I've never seen them come to know Christ only by being told how wrong they are. Sometimes we do need to tell people why they're wrong and show them that at the right time, for sure. But that can't be all that we do, and oftentimes it's not what we lead with. And we see, once again, we see that when people are treated in the gracious way that Paul treats the Athenians, what is their response? We want to hear you again on this subject. And we're told that some of them even became followers of Paul and believed.